Well guys, and again, we are on Yakovlev channel of our Ukrainian defenders, and it means that you are really interested in real situation. So this is a new digest of main news, main points about war in Ukraine for the last few weeks. Do you remember the story with Wagner's mercenaries who revolted and went to Moscow? Then the situation was hushed up and mercenaries began to be transferred to Belarus. But the threat for Ukraine didn't end there. The New York Times published new satellite images of Camp Wagner in Belarus. Wagner's mercenaries have started construction work at the training ground near Osipovichy in Belarus, and they are equipping fortifications. Those pictures show no less than 35 vans and hundreds of passenger cars, pickups and trucks. In the southern part of the image, you can also see construction equipment which was seen in at least 2 columns during July when Wagners were transferred to Belarus. According to the Prime Minister of Poland, more than 100 Wagner mercenaries are moving towards to Suwalki Gap. And recently, Lukashenko, the self-proclaimed president of Belarus, in Moscow said that Wagners want to go on an excursion, some promenade, to the closest Polish city. And already on August 1st, 2 Belarusian helicopters violated Polish airspace. The Minister of Defense of Poland confirmed that Belarusian helicopters crossed the country's airspace, and of course NATO has been informed about the incident. Therefore, Poland is creating a separate unit in the event of an invasion of the Wagner mercenaries with the Suwalki Gap. The command of its army reports Poland has deployed snipers on the border with Belarus. And Poland almost doubled the size of its troops. Also, the Federation of American Scientists, FAS, reported that the constructions of hangars for Iskander missile launchers, which can carry nuclear warheads, has been completed on the territory of Osipovichy. This is confirmed by the analysis of fresh satellite images, and according to FAS, construction began in October 2022 and was completed in April 2023. At July 4th, 2023, Maxar image shows 4 Iskander launchers, or transporters, and 2 smaller support vehicles outside the garage. At the same time, the missile storage compartment on one of the launchers is open. Then, joining Poland, the Latvian armed forces transferred additional forces to the border with Belarus. And Lithuania closes 2 border points with Belarus. Iran actively helps Russia. And of course, it's not a surprise. Iran helps not only with drones, but also with other ammunition. And in recent weeks, a cluster of Russian ships, vessels, has been spotted near Iranian ports. Satellite images of textile source show the increasing trade relations of those countries. Now Russia has begun attacking Ukraine with Shahed kamikaze drone already assembled in the Russian Federation. This is evidenced by the Cyrillic marking on the remains of the drones that were the last to attack Ukraine. Almost all sanctioned goods continue to enter the Russian Terroristic Federation, and China has become a key hub. Western countries participate in schemes to bypass sanctions through third countries. Almost all sanctions electronics enter the Russian Terroristic Federation via China and Hong Kong. Part of the cargo goes through the Arab Emirates, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Armenia. In addition, as reported by ICW, Belarus wanted to conclude an agreement with Iran on the production of Shahed kamikaze drone on its territory. On July 31st, the Belarusian Minister of Defense arrived in Iran for a meeting with his colleague. Analysts noted that as Iran's defense minister, he is responsible for negotiating military acquisitions and sales. It will be recalled that it was previously reported that Iran was trying to convert a factory in the Gomel region of Belarus into a Shahed kamikaze drone production plant. The Russian invaders are preparing for the inevitable battles for the temporarily occupied Mariupol in Donetsk region of Ukraine. The enemy mined all the bridges in the city. The Russian occupiers also set up defensive structure near each of the bridges. Now, the passage through the bridges is limited, and the territory of the defensive structures is surrounded by a fence. Currently, the Russians' tactic is to multiply crises, so they hope that they will succeed in creating chaos, in which they will wait for a change of configuration in Western democracies. However, Ukrainian counteroffensive continues. Russian defense is weakening, and the Times confirms that Ukrainian fighters are moving into critical positions, forcing the Russian Terroristic Federation to allocate reserves and strike at ammunition depots in the rear. The armed forces of Ukraine violated the logistics of the Russian army and made it difficult for the rapid movement of its troops at the front. Now, there are three possible directions for the armed forces of Ukraine. Go east from Bakhmut and turn south toward Donetsk. Move south from Ugledar to Mariupol, or go to Tokmak city and then to Melitopol to isolate the Crimea Peninsula and all the Russian troops. Under the latter option, Crimea will be within reach of Ukrainian artillery and air attacks. And this means that even without the capture of the peninsula, the Ukrainians could make Crimea impossible for the presence of the Russian military and Russian civilian population. This will be a serious trump card. Also, it is worth noting that as soon as the French long-range Scalp missiles arrived in Ukraine, the main logistic routes of the invaders, supplying the southern group of its troops, broken down. As a result of Russian attacks, 26 port infrastructure facilities and 5 civilian ships were damaged or destroyed. This was announced by the Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine following the meeting of the Ukraine NATO Council. He also emphasized that the Russians are restricting shipping in the area of the temporarily occupied Crimea and near the territorial waters of Bulgaria. With this, the Russian Terroristic Federation actually blocks the movement of ships in the direction of the seaports of Ukraine. Over the past more than 9 days in Ukraine, after withdrawing from the grain deal, the Russian occupiers did the following: damaged 26 port infrastructure facilities of Ukraine, damaged 5 civilian ships, and destroyed about 180,000 tons of grain. But Croatia agreed to provide its ports on the Dunai River and the Adriatic Sea for the export of Ukrainian grain. After Russia's blockade of ships, an Israeli ship, ignoring Russian threats, was the first to break Moscow's grain blockade in the Black Sea. Vessel named RMS-1 entered the Ukrainian branch of the Dunai River. It is the first ship to break through the Russian blockade of the sea since the bombardment of Reni on July 25th. Also, on August 2nd, 3 civilian vessels from Israel, Turkey, and Greece broke through the Russian blockade in the Black Sea and docked in Ismail city. Accordingly, the Russian Terroristic Federation, as a terrorist country, attacked the elevator in the port of Ismail city and damaged almost 40 tons of grain, which was expected by African countries, China, and Israel. ICW reports that the Russian armed forces have destroyed more than 200,000 tons of grain since the withdrawal from the grain agreement. According to analysts, Russia is deliberately, purposefully attacking Ukrainian granaries in order to increase world food prices. In this way, the Russian authorities expect to artificially increase the profit from the sale of their own grain. That actually, part of this grain was they steal from Ukraine, from our temporarily occupied territories. Well, while in Moscow, there are increasingly frequent explosions due to Ukrainian drones, and at the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, there are hits on bridges, which are actually an important logistical source of Russian occupiers. August 1st was the best day for the International Clown Week holiday. I guess Russians celebrated. Well, let's talk seriously and let's evaluate the layered defense of Moscow and You're right. And its uselessness. Missing strikes on the Kremlin and hitting Moscow city itself. You just have to manage it, yeah? Now Moscow will be bombed regularly. Newsweek source writes that Moscow was probably attacked by Ukrainian drones called Beaver. Those drones have a flight range of 1,000 kilometers. It is reported that in the future, those Beavers will be used in much larger quantities to overcome air defense. These missiles, these drones actually, are similar in many respects to Iranian-made Shahed drones. On April 5th at night, the security service of Ukraine blew up a large oil tanker of the Russian Terroristic Federation named SIG-SIG. Transporting fuel for Russian troops. And there is some information about this tanker that was attacked by a drone. And OSINT technical researchers reviewed the voyage history of the damaged vessel that is actually under US sanctions since 2019. For several years, the vessel went to Syria almost monthly, supplying jet fuel to the Russian air group in Syria. Interestingly, that near Cyprus, vessel always turned off his transponder. However, it was found that vessel was delivering fuel to the Syria port of Venice. Recall that on July 19, the Russian Terroristic Defense Ministry announced that from July 20, it would regard all civilian ships entering Ukrainian ports as military targets. Ukraine replied that it would act in a minor manner. So, Russian propagandists can hold their word about an attack on civilian tanker, but this is a military purpose. Also, to the good news, I can add the following. The first Ukrainian demining machine has passed certification. The press service of the Ministry of Economy of Ukraine reports that the company that manufactures the machine for preparing soil for demining has already received a certificate of conformity, which allows it to be manufactured and used for demining territories. Also, France 24 showed the folk Ukrainian cruise missile Trumpeta. Trumpeta, actually, it's our traditional folk musical instrument. And trumpeta can be very long and very heavy, and actually was made for using in our Carpathian mountain. So, this cruise missile trumpeta have two options: a kamikaze drone and an air defense decoy drone. The trumpeta warhead can have a thermobaric charge and a combined high explosive fragmentation charge weighing 20 kilograms. Star Trumpeta will be carried out with a pneumatic catapult or with the help of a solid propellant booster. And the one more specific of these missiles that the most part of those who was involved in the development of the missiles are volunteers. Yeah, just our volunteers. The main topic of recent weeks, as in the Associated Press, as in the Wall Street Journal or other publications, was the summit on Ukraine in Saudi Arabia at the beginning of August. Summit was organized by Ukraine, and the participation of the representative of the White House was expected. Recall that Russia was not invited to the meeting, but China expressed its desire to attend. The European Union expected the participation of representatives of about 40 states at an informal meeting in Saudi Arabia in the negotiation regarding Ukraine. At the meeting in Saudi Arabia, the countries were represented at the level of National Security Advisor. A representative of the European Union was also present. The two-day meeting is part of Ukraine's diplomatic initiative aimed at gaining support not only from its main Western partners, but also from the countries of the South, which currently don't want to take side in the conflict or try to stay neutral. Ukraine and its allies hope that key principles for ending Russia's war against Ukraine will be agreed at the meeting in Jeddah. At the summit, they agreed on the basis of the peace agreement. any peace agreement must be based on respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Period. As a result, working groups were formed on the key topics of the 10 points of the peace formula proposed by Kyiv. The dates of the meeting of the heads of states haven't yet been determined, but it's considered quite really by the end of this year, 2023. Well, this was the last main news for today. Thank you for staying with us at Yakovlev's channel, sharing our video. So, glory to Ukraine, glory to our defenders. And if you want in some way to help our defenders, help our armed forces to make a donation, you can find more information by the links under this video.